Malea Jensen. This is my co-host, Tucker. He is co-hosting from heaven. So for those of you who do not know Tucker, I lost him on February 16th of 2025. So he's coming up on 1 year of me missing him without him being here. So, all right, you guys, we'll kind of wait here for everybody to get started. I just want to let you guys know I am a family practice physician. I'm located in the United States. I'm in Iowa. I do have a lot of other countries that listen, so I always specify that I'm in the United States. As a reminder, also, this is not medical advice. It's for information purposes only. And so take it with a grain of salt if you'd like, or use the information, pack it away, do some reading, do some education on your own, and learn some more. That's what this is for, is to spur your brain to start working. Good morning. Is it Christine? Thank you for being here. Thanks, Jim Rat. I appreciate it. I'm glad you're back. If you have a question, let me know. This is your opportunity to ask questions. I can't remember if it was you, Jim Rat, who asked about the glycine, but I did read some more into that. So I appreciate you guys when you bring up questions and then I don't know the answer. I usually try to go back and look them up. It makes me a better informant. How about that? I would say it makes me a better doctor, but I'm not your doctor. You're not my patients. Yes, I am a doctor, but no, I'm not your doctor. But okay, so we'll get started. What do you guys, any questions if we want to start off? I really appreciate everybody being here. We are live on Instagram and YouTube. So if you guys have questions, let me know. But we'll first talk about glycine. This was brought up yesterday by a listener. So do you want to talk about that, Jim Rat, first before we talk about glycine? Or maybe that'll get your juices flowing. But Jim Rat has a question in regards to saturated fat. What is your take on saturated fat when people bring up how bad it is for people who eat carnivore? Well, I believe that the people who are worried about saturated fat are the same people who have ideologies that believe that saturated fat is the cause of coronary artery disease. Now, with that being said, they have no problem eating coconut oil. And coconut oil actually has more saturated fat than meat. And when you tell them that, they will fight that one as well and say, but it's healthier because it comes from a plant. Well, I thought you meant that it's just saturated fat because that's all you said. But now you're telling me that it's not just saturated fat, it's just saturated fat that comes from an animal that you don't think is healthy. Again, there's going to be a lot of nuances here, but in the end, Jim Rat, you really have to do what is good for you, and I do what is good for me. Now, if a person is worried about saturated fat, there's really nothing that I can say to convince them otherwise. So I just present information. If I thought saturated fat, in fact, if the world really thought saturated fat was the problem in 2016 or 2019, they wouldn't have changed their tune. People will still argue that the new pyramid limits fat to 10%. And I wonder if people are counting their coconut oil as their 10% saturated fat. All right. So, it's kind of up to you. Nothing they will say will change how I'm going to live my life. And likewise, nothing I say will change their life. And it's just something that we have to agree to disagree on. And fighting them, Jim Rat, is really not in your best interest because you're just going to use more energy when that energy needs to be put on you and your wife, okay? So that's how I deal with it. If I thought that saturated fat coming from animals was a problem, then all of the carnivores that are in society now would have had heart attacks. And I've really never seen a carnivore have a heart attack. Although I have seen people who eat the standard American diet have heart attacks. But with a grain of salt, again, do with it what you would like, okay? Let's see. So good question. I appreciate your question, Jim Rat. Please share time schedule. I don't understand what that is about. VM says, hello, doc. Was wondering, do LDL particle size or ApoB provide better risk assessment than LDL alone? Good question. On their heart. And so we'll just briefly talk about, if we're going to talk about LDLs, at knowing the particle size is very, I can look at your lipid panel and get a pretty good, I can look at your triglycerides and I can look at your HDL. The higher your triglycerides and the lower your HDL, I can